We've all seen the headlines and the courtroom dramas, and you can't help but wonder, when someone commits a crime, what are we actually trying to do with the punishment? It's a huge question, one that really gets to the very heart of our entire justice system. So let's dive in. Right? What's the point? Is it about getting even? Is it about keeping people safe? Or is it something else entirely? Now, this might seem like a simple question, but the answer is, well, it's pretty complex. And that's because our justice system is trying to juggle 5 different things at once. To really get our heads around this, let's use a hypothetical case. Meet Alex. Alex made a terrible, tragic mistake, texting while driving, and it caused a fatal accident. So now Alex is standing before a judge. The question for the court, and for us, is what happens next? And maybe more importantly, why? To figure that out, the justice system doesn't just pull one solution out of a hat. Instead, it comes at a case like Alex's by asking 5 fundamental questions, and each one represents a completely different goal of punishment. These 5 questions are basically the philosophical roadmap for sentencing. They cover everything from moral vengeance and public safety all the way to healing and reform. We're going to start with the first 3, which are all about looking backward at the crime itself and forward to prevent the next one. So this first group of goals, retribution, deterrence, and incapacitation, you can think of these as the more traditional, old-school pillars of punishment. They're focused on paying a debt for the crime and making sure it doesn't happen again. First up is retribution. This is probably the oldest reason for punishment we have. It's the whole eye for an eye idea. It is not about preventing future crime. It's all about delivering what feels like justice for a past wrong. The thinking is that a crime creates a kind of moral imbalance in the universe, and punishment is the only way to set it right. So, if a judge is laser-focused on retribution, their reasoning is going to sound something like this. See how the focus is entirely on the harm Alex already caused? The punishment is framed as a debt, and a long prison sentence is seen as the only payment that can balance the scales of justice. So what's next? Well, that brings us to deterrence. And unlike retribution, which is all about looking backward, deterrence is completely forward-looking. The goal here isn't to balance the scales, is to use punishment to prevent future crimes. It is all about sending a message. But deterrence isn't just a one-size-fits-all thing. It actually has 2 very different targets. You've got specific deterrence, which is about teaching Alex a personal lesson so that Alex never texts and drives again. And then you have general deterrence, which uses Alex's punishment to teach everybody else a lesson. And you can really hear the logic of general deterrence at play in a statement like this one. The judge's focus isn't just on Alex anymore, it's on every single person with a driver's license. Alex's sentence basically becomes a massive public service announcement designed to stop countless future accidents before they happen. The third goal is maybe the most straightforward of them all, incapacitation. The logic here is incredibly simple. If an offender is locked up, they literally cannot commit more crimes out in public. It's a very pragmatic approach that's focused purely on community safety. A judge who's prioritizing incapacitation would probably frame their decision just like this. It doesn't really matter if Alex is sorry or if they've learned their lesson. All that matters is that for as long as the sentence lasts, the public is safe from any potential danger Alex might pose behind the wheel. Simple as that. Okay, so we've covered punishment as justice and as prevention. And for centuries, those were pretty much the main tools in the box. But over the last 100 years or so, there's been a real societal shift. 2 new goals have emerged that really change the focus, away from just punishing the act and towards trying to heal the people involved. And that leads us right into rehabilitation. The core idea here is that a lot of offenders have these underlying issues, maybe addiction, mental health problems, or a lack of education that contribute to their criminal behavior. So rehabilitation tries to address those root causes to, well, fix the offender and prevent future crime that way. A rehabilitation-focused approach for Alex looks completely different, right? Prison is actually seen as being counterproductive here. Instead, the solution is treatment. The whole goal is to try and transform Alex into a responsible, law-abiding citizen who truly understands the consequences of their actions. And finally, we get to our 5th goal, restoration, which you might also hear called restorative justice. And this one is a pretty radical shift. It argues that a crime isn't just about breaking a law, it's about hurting people and breaking relationships. So the main goal of justice should be to actually repair that harm. Under a restorative model, the victim's needs are put front and center. What does the family need to heal? What does the community need? The sentence for Alex would focus on things like paying for funeral costs, or maybe speaking to high school students about the dangers of distracted driving, doing things that make amends in a real, tangible way. Okay, so there they are, our 5 distinct goals. But here's the problem. In the real world, you can't have it all. These goals are often in direct conflict with each other. Let's go back to Alex. A 20-year prison sentence would absolutely satisfy the demands for retribution, and it would definitely incapacitate Alex. But what about rehabilitation? Spending decades in prison might make Alex harder, not better. And what about restoration? A long prison sentence does very little to directly repair the harm that was done to the victim's family. And on top of all this, the system isn't just free to chase any one of these goals to its extreme. The U.S. Constitution sets up some really important guardrails. You've got the Eighth Amendment, which prevents punishments that are just barbaric, while due process and this idea of proportionality make sure that the sentence is fair and actually fits the specific crime. So here's the real takeaway. When you see a sentence handed down in the news, you are not seeing a simple, clean calculation. You are seeing the result of a really difficult balancing act. The final punishment always reflects a choice about which of these 5 competing purposes our society in that moment has decided to value the most. And that leaves us with one last and really critical question. As our understanding of crime and psychology and justice itself continues to evolve, which of these goals should guide us moving forward? The priorities have shifted before, from retribution towards rehabilitation. The question is, will they shift again? The answer to that is going to define the future of justice for all of us.